Am I live? I think I'm live. Hey, if I have, I was fiddling with my audio buttons, so please let me know if my fiddling was a problem for you or not. And otherwise, Friday, man, I almost always love Fridays. There's a little bit of bittersweet today. The missus took off a couple hours ago to go back and visit family in the Midwest. And so I was going to be alone for the week. My kid was supposed to be out on his internship, and that particular job that they were doing this week, somewhere in Utah or Vegas, somewhere out there in the West, evaporated. So, excuse me. Let's see. Anybody say anything bad about my audio? Live audio is okay. Okay, thanks all the way. Outstanding. Let's go back up there. Still got a little bit of that stuff. Sorry. It gets better every week, but I as some of you know, I took a lung injury, oh golly, about 30 years ago. And now anybody who gets the same cold that I do would be done with it in a couple of days. If I get a cold and it affects my chest, then I'm down for the next 6 months before I can finally say, oh, you know what? I don't think I coughed yesterday, or I don't have to clear my throat. So yeah, like that. Okay, what did I just bump? Nothing critical. Well, it is Friday. It's Pi Day Friday, or drama. I am Dave Rush, senior instructor at Total Seminars, and this is an Ask Me Anything, so DR AMA, drama. And we are marking, but not exactly celebrating, the 100th episode of drama today. This is, by the way, July 8th, Friday, July 8th. It's 2 o'clock Central Time, and we do this every week, every Friday, normally at 2 o'clock Central Time on the Total Seminars YouTube channel. I'm trying to think of the official name. /user/Total Seminars channel. There we go. You know that because you're already looking right at it. But people hunt this stuff. And so what we're going to do today is nothing special as far as noting that it's the 100th show, because this is the 3 weeks, the 29th. Will mark our 2-year anniversary show, and that's where we're going to put all the effort and attention into it. I've got lots and lots of prizes lined up. I don't think I'm going to do a project that day. We're just going to shoot the breeze. Talk about anything that's fun and interesting, and give away a lot of stuff. So that's going to be just more fun than a barrel of monkeys for me. Oh, what kind of notes do we have up here today? I don't think I have anything special. I do have a project today, of course, and it's not what I figured it was going to be, but it matches the headlines, and we'll go from there. I heard from Andrew at some point today, but he just got back from vacation. I think he's swamped on another project, so I didn't ask him to join. If you're here, Andrew, by all means, feel free to do your thing as back channel and whatever, and I'll post info for you if you need it. But if not, don't worry about it. I know you're busting your butt on chapter 12, which is not the last chapter of the book, but there's only a couple chapters to polish right now. So the book is written, and there's always a little bit more to do, but had a nice long meeting with some people in the book group yesterday. Yeah, the last 24 hours have been so busy. I have no idea what day happened, but they gave me kind of the lowdown on where everything is, and it's proceeding on schedule, and that's the best thing. Okay, did that. Everybody knows about that. We're here on Fridays at 2 o'clock Central Time under normal circumstances. And this is an Ask Me Anything. The whole goal here is for you to ask questions. Our bailiwick is CompTIA certifications, any of them. But we extend beyond that. We'll talk about anything computer, technology, whatever you've got in mind. And of course, the focus of our little program here is studying for CompTIA and other certifications, and how we can use Raspberry Pi computers to foster that studying. And we do have a project today, and it's going to extend a little bit into next week. There is a Security Plus, SY0601, I think it's objective 3.3, objective to, excuse me, to have an understanding of reverse proxy servers. So I'm going to take a look at that. And there's a couple different flavors of them. If I say the term proxy server to you, it probably conjures up an image in your mind. And in fact, if it's not you, if I say the same term to a huge group of people who don't have the background experience, credentials, and interests that you have, the image that they're going to have in mind is probably a little different than what we as technicians and computer aficionados know about. Then we could further expand that once we discuss what that is and talk about reverse proxy servers. Reverse proxy servers, again, should conjure up an image in your mind. We have talked about this on Mike's show. We've talked about this informally on my show. But today I'm going to flesh that out and talk about the two kinds of reverse proxy servers. And this is basically going to be a slideshow and a lecture today. I had something in mind as a hands-on project. We will do the hands-on project next week. But last night, as almost always, was going to be my prep night. And the phone rang at somewhere around 7 or 8 o'clock at night. And I was running around until midnight trying to deal with the cause of that phone call. And I was just wiped out by the rest of that day. So no, not the prep time that I wanted. I could certainly do a basic reverse proxy server here, but I have something much more sophisticated in mind. Did I set this up so I can pull it out? Nah. Behind Mr. Gopher here, we got a cluster of 5 Raspberry Pis, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down on the bottom. And we used that to do a couple of weeks of cluster computing presentations and projects. And I played with it for a few months after that, and then I kind of settled it back there, and it's just been window dressing. Well, I'm going to resurrect that this week and create 4 web servers on there, 1 on each computer. Now, you don't have to do that. I can put 4 web servers on 1 computer, but to really illustrate the power of an internal reverse proxy server, we're going to have 4 there, and then that 5th box is going to be the reverse proxy server. And I'll explain that all as the course rolls in. Is this a course? As the show rolls on today. I've been talking to a lot of people about courseware development in the last week, and so everything is a course this week. So at any rate, it isn't Ask Me Anything. Easiest, quickest way to do that is to type your comments, your questions in the YouTube chat feed, and I will read them all and answer them all to the best of my ability. If that's not possible, for the myriad reasons that it might not be possible, there are other ways by which you can and should contact me. Let's see, how do you do that? I guess you click on this and say, God, don't hit the end button. Gosh, don't hit the end button. Share screen. That's weird. And you can contact me by email with further questions, comments, your compliments on the awesome show. I got a really nice compliment on that. I'll fill you in on that in a second today. And hopefully, Tammy, if you're here, poke in, say hi. You can email me, daver@totalsem.com, or my personal email, drushtx @yahoo. You could call Total Seminars. People are there. They're answering phones again. But actually, our normal phone answerer is on vacation this week, which means if you won a prize in the last 2 weeks, it may not be there this week. The lady who handles that, she handed off, and it may actually be done. You may have already received access, but if you don't, everything that's getting delayed will happen again next week. You can find me on LinkedIn. By all means, find me, follow me, friend me, link me, whatever those things we do are. And of course, if you're watching the show live or on archive, click that like thumb. It doesn't help me, it doesn't help Total Seminars, but it does help other people who are searching YouTube and say, man, I wish I knew something about setting up a reverse proxy server on a Raspberry Pi. The more thumbs up that we get, the more likes, the greater the likelihood that this will appear in the top result of their searches. As long as you're clicking on things and doing things like that, make sure you toggle the timestamps on the chat feed. Just click the 3-dot button and enable that. Who just turned up their Basquat? Has added me to their friend list. Okay, thank you. Very nice. I thought, I don't recognize that. They're not a friend yet, but now you are. Okay, cool. Yeah, so you can find me as drushtx on Steam, and Basquat Steam name just did that. So very good. Nice to see you. Well, I get sidetracked by those things. They all disappear. What else is going on here? I don't have the PyR² server up today. I'll put it up as soon as we get done with the show, because I didn't put anything downloadable last week. And I was thinking about it. Do I have anything downloadable this week? Well, I don't have a project, but I do have a slideshow presentation. So after the show today, I will create a download for today's show. The basic thing out of that is going to be my outline just for talking about the show, and a little bit of text about the thing, and the let's call it a slideshow. It's a bunch of graphics that you play on your favorite graphic viewer. So after the show and through the weekend till late Sunday night my time, you'll be able to find all my archives and downloads and notes and all that good stuff at PyR², PIR².zapto.org. And let's get this last two things out of the way, and then I'll talk about this again for the rest of the show. I'll put these in the YouTube chat feed in just a moment. Specials, we got specials just for you, just for those of you who join Mike and I on our AMAs and our drama. 50% off a bundle that you must create. You start by going to totalsem.com and you pick one of these areas of study, A+, Net+, Sec+, whatever's in this list, and you get 2 items that are associated with that. One is the ebook, not the hard copy book or any of the other books, the ebook for, let's say, Sec+, and Total Tester for, let's say, Sec+. Put those both in your shopping cart, and then when you check out, use the code Liberty. That's good through this Sunday night, and that'll take 50% off of those 2 items. So it's kind of like getting one for free and the other close to regular price. Good. That says through July 3rd. Well, that's a typo. How about it's good through this Sunday night. Today is the 8th, 9th, 10th. So it's through the 10th. Sorry about that. I missed that. These things happen. And then the last thing, Discord. There is a Discord channel all about total seminars and technology and studying for CompTIA certifications. And it's not ours. It's the unofficial Total Seminars Discord channel. It was set up by Siegfried and managed by a lot of the folks that are here now, regulars, Tulowit and Andre and a few others. Sorry, I'm not looking at my list of names right now. But there's just tons and tons of stuff over there. I'm not going to list it all off to you. Go check it out. You can either pause the screen at this point and go see it, or I'm going to go put the links and the information for the 50% discount special this week and for that in the chat feed. How do we do that? We go over here, we go up to this thing, and we copy paste. Well, there's so much to copy paste here. Let's start with that. All right, first link going up is, come here, you. The specials this week. The next is the Discord invitation this week, and the link to the PyR² server, which will be up shortly after the show. And that takes care of everything for now. Sorry, getting stuff prepped for the next phase of our fascinating and interesting show. Do I need that more again? Yeah, I will need that again later. All right. So let's see what's going on in people checking in. Tulowit here first, as ever and always, about a half an hour before show starts. And yay, says Zoltan, congratulations on the 100th episode. Thank you so much. Could not have done it without everyone here. Without you, there is no show, and there is no show. That's it. Kathleen Stevens here. Thank you for the congrats. I'm not able to tune in as much because of my new job position. That is so much more heartwarming for me than you turning in. The fact that you've got a new position and that you're dedicated and focused to it, that's why we're here, right? I'm glad that you get certifications. I'm glad that you learn something here on the show. I hope that you do. But the whole point of all of it is to get jobs. And so we do. Patty Powder, very excited. You got your first Pi and ready to rock on that. And I saw another question as I scanned earlier. We use different operating systems for different projects. So our last couple of weeks, we were using Ubuntu. I don't use that much, but I have used it in the past, and I definitely needed it for the last couple of weeks worth of projects. We installed a help desk ticketing system called OS Ticket, which, because of a version of a dependency that's not current in Raspberry Pi OS, we had to drop back and punt and use Ubuntu. 9 times out of 10, we do our projects on Raspberry Pi OS, but very easy to switch back and forth. No actual hands-on project today, so today ain't gonna matter. However, if you did choose to start experimenting on your own with today, it's a really nice thing. We're gonna install Nginx, Nginx, and set it up as a reverse proxy server. And Nginx is available for everything. It's available for Ubuntu. It's available both ARM version for the Raspberry Pi and for x86. Same is true for Raspberry Pi OS. Same is true for CentOS and Rocky and Arhel, and Nginx is available everywhere. It is by far and away the #1 web server package out there. What about Apache? I'll talk about that differentiation in a little bit. And then there was Dave posted in for the time. Guy Powder is I am star. Lester's here. Lester, I saw you on Discord with the same name. So very nice. Thank you for the congrats. And Will Shaw is back in a position where he can look at a computer. Excuse me, hiccups. Mike sneezes or coughs or does whatever he does. I get hiccups. TD Wash, good morning, afternoon. Yes, and thanks, congrats. Live and audios is okay. Eddie's here. Hey, Eddie, welcome. Lots of emojis on there. Chris Kent's back. Good to see you back, my friend. Kathleen, congrats on getting the Pi to Kylie. Very good. I got mine last week. Wow, you guys are doing better than I am. All right, I'll go down this road because today's project is not going to be time consuming. It's just going to be 20 slides. We're going to talk about them for probably a minute or less a piece. So I ordered, I don't know, months ago, a couple of Pi Zero version 2s. And they had a ship date of May something or other. And I don't pay attention to it. And then one day I said, hey, you know what? Where's my W's? And I went in to go check the status of my order. And it said, will now be arriving in June of 23. These are Pi Zero W's, $7 a piece, whatever they were, $10 a piece, something like that, some ridiculous number. And so I came unglued and unloaded on the company I bought them from. In fact, they have been not satisfactory in dealing with their customer service. So usually I won't bash a company on here, but after this order, and then I have another one that's actually expected to arrive in June of 23. And so that one is still saying June of 23, but it just really ticked me off that they extended this out and they never even bothered to send me an email or communicate this delay. And so it's Newark.com, historically an official distributor in the US for Raspberry Pi. But when I go to raspberrypi.com site now and look for US distributors, they're no longer listed in the distributor list. So something has happened. So very unhappy with them, and I will not order anything from them ever again. Why? I'm not part of the cancel culture. That's not the way I do things. However, in the course of our back and forth emailing, one of the things they said is our computer system, we don't consider reliable right now with respect to it knowing what's in stock. So when you order something, now the good news is they never charge you until they actually ship it. So I could cancel the order right now, but I'm kind of hooked into them. But they said, what you should do henceforth is whenever you place an order, call us and see if it's in stock. I said, you have, and I wrote back, I said, are you serious? Any order that I place with you, I have to also follow up with a phone call to see if you have it? Yes, we know that seems a little strange, but that's the way things. So no, you guys are like one of the biggest electronics distributors in the world. And so no, I won't do business with them anymore. And so be it. I'm dealing with smaller folks now. Ah, okay, there we go. So where else are we going to go with that? So, oh yeah, so a little over a week ago, I was going to say CompTIA, Raspberry Pi introduced 3 new products. One of them, they already said, isn't going to ship until August. So I said, cool, I want some of those. They're Raspberry Pi Picos. And there's 3 versions, one with this, one with that, and one with this and that. This is pre-soldered headers. Now I have soldered headers onto Pi Zeros. Sometimes I solder just the pins that I need. In one case, I soldered all 40 pins. I stuck that up last week. I'm not going to hang it up again. And so I ordered, and they put limits on the orders because everything is always in short supply. So I ordered the maximum number of Raspberry Pi Picos with headers that I was allowed to order. 2. Some places only allow 1. And I appreciate that. I don't want to hoard them. So here is a Raspberry Pi Pico with pre-soldered headers. There's a pair of them in this package. Hey, look at that. Can we see that? Yeah, you can see that fairly well. So they do a much nicer job of soldering than I do, gotta tell you. And then the other one that they introduced is the Pico W for wireless. It has a little built-in Wi-Fi interface. And everybody was sold out because the hoarders got there first, and they're selling them on eBay and for instead of $7 for $35 or something like that. I really want to go over to their homes and have a little heart-to-heart, face-to-face, this-to-face meeting. So I'm on a list. I've pre-ordered from one of the official distributors here in the US, and I don't know when I'm going to get it. And then in August, they will ship headers and wireless modules together on one board. Oh, I guess it was one of the things I should show you about this. There's an option when you get any of these boards, either with a header or with wireless or both. There's also one other option that costs 25 cents US in difference. And that is, you can see that. This little connector here on the end. What's normally there on a Raspberry Pi Pico is 3 solder pads. So if I can get you to see that. Trying to find the right light. Well, you can barely see it, but right here under my fingernail, there's 3 little solder pads, and you can connect wires to those. And that's a serial port. That's one of the ways that you can talk to a Raspberry Pi Pico. You can use PuTTY or SSH or whatever makes you happy with your USB serial port or your native serial port in your computer. And so if you cough up an extra 25 cents, then you get a pre-soldered connector on there, and then you can just use an industry standard connector. So yeah, I was willing to cough up a quarter. All right, let's catch up on questions. That was a long sidetrack, right? So you people who are getting Raspberry Pis, man, jealous. I need more. Gosh, do I need more? I need more 4s. How's that? Okay, Zoltan is basket on Steam. Sent you the friend request. Yep, I will reply to that as soon as I get done here. Lester is talking to Telowit. Andre's here. Good evening. Hey, Telowit and Andre, that conversation that you're having in the Batcave, I'll bet you get a lot of traffic if you move that out of the Batcave and into. I have enjoyed watching it, and I appreciate both of it and agree with both of your perspectives. I have a little fun as the curmudgeon, but the reality is, I hope you know, is I completely agree with both of you. Crunchy ice. You should always chew ice when you're doing a live presentation. Why? Well, because you might be out of gum. Chris Kent says, congrats. Thank you, sir. PC building simulator. Had a long discussion about that yesterday with somebody. 100 times and you missed less than 10. Yeah, but every time you missed, it was for something really important and really useful, so it's okay. It was neither RJ45 nor USB. It's an industry standard micro RS422 or yeah. It's a micro CAN bus connector, but it is serial port. Hello, just checking in from SeaWorld San Diego, says the Xerxes. Wow, cool. It's too bad we can't share pictures. Let's see. Open the floodgates. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, the farmer discussion. Okay. All right. Well, that catches up on questions then for the momento. Let's go back to connotes. I don't need that. I do want that. Well, if I click on that, something bad will happen. There we go. Oh, what are you doing? I just have too much going on my computer. Oh man, I got stuff to share with you today. That's so fun. Fun. All right, we're talking about contact information. We got ways to contact with me. Talk to me on email. Dave R at totalsum.com or drushtx at yahoo.com. I'm good either way. Don't send them to both. We talked about the code today for the discount program. It's Liberty. That's good through this Sunday, July 10th. And I do have that correct in these notes. I just missed it there. Such a goofball. Project that we're starting today, again, can be done on any Linux distro. There's probably some weird exception out there, but all the popular distros. So where we've been and where are we going? So where we've been. Last week, we completed our 3-part series on help desk ticketing systems. It wasn't done 3 weeks in a row because of the vicissitudes of the world and work and so forth. I had to do part 1 and then something different the following week, and then part 2, and then something different the following week, and then part 3. But we did finish that last week, and that was so cool last week. We were joined by 3 guest SMEs from Nginx. Nginx is the developer, creator of OS Ticket, their free open source version of a help desk system, and their support utility, which is a cloud-based paid service. We had, I love her title, Controller of Chaos, Chloe Bowman. The CEO of the company, Peter Rodich, and founder, also came on, as did Kevin Thorne. They were one of their senior developers, if he's not the senior developer. And Chloe walked us through completing the installation. We had installed it all on the server, and then the first time you log into it, you have to do some initial configuration and then some more. And to get it all up and running, to say, you know what, we can use this now, takes about an hour. And she took, she makes me sound like I talk slow because she has so much material to cover and only so much time. But you know, watch it back, watch it in slow motion. The only thing that she didn't do that you actually have to do to make it really practical so that people can communicate with your server by excuse me, by email, is enter the information for your email servers. And then, of course, if you want to make it really friendly and accessible to the outside, it's a web service. So you can set up port forwarding and DDNS and give it a domain name, put it in a domain. So helpdesk dot whatever your company is.com, you could set that up on that server, and then you or other people could access it from the outside or even internally. So really, 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 really cool project. It works best on Ubuntu. And for those of you who weren't here for all that, you can install this on just about any major distro that's an x86 based distro. It took me a long time, it took me months to find a distro that works on Raspberry Pi that would support this. And we discovered the simple answer, it just took a long time to find it, is the 64-bit server version of Ubuntu, the LTS version 2002, 2004. There we go. All right, so that's what we did for a week ago. This week, what are we doing? We're switching gears. We're going to look at a very powerful web server called Nginx. Now, those are the two big name web servers in the world, Apache 2 and Nginx. And there's a lot more Nginx installed out there than Apache 2. Why? Well, because Nginx and Apache, to a lesser degree, are much more than web servers. They have a lot more capability and capacity. Apache tends to be a little more focused on being a web server, and it's a powerful one and it's a flexible one. But compared to Nginx, Nginx has so many more amazing and cool and powerful features. And one of them is one that we want to take advantage of today, and that's creating a reverse proxy server. Again, there's a lot more to that than those words. And what they conjure up in your mind might not exactly be what you're thinking, but I will definitely clarify that for you. Speaking of which, how are we doing on time here? It's 32, okay. So as a reverse proxy server, it's a go-between between clients and web servers, but it doesn't have to be web servers, it can be any kind of server. But here's the really cool thing about it. Do I have a hard setup in here? Now, let's do it this way. Oh, here's some cool things. Let's say that I got a web server that I'm running on my property, in my residence, in my business, something like that. Cool. Doesn't need anything special. I can port forward to it from my router, and you can access it, and I can do whatever security and set it up as HTTPS or HTTP, but whatever. It's one server, and that's pretty much what I've got going on in here. But what if I want to set up a second web server? Well, I got two ways to do that. One is to set up another one in the same box. Now that takes a little bit of magic, because now you have to get into some heavy duty configuration files called virtual hosts. It's not that big of a deal once you learn them, but so I can do multiple servers on one computer and make them smart enough so that when a request comes in from the outside, it can figure out which web server is supposed to handle that. But if you're doing a lot of web servers here, you're asking a lot of the web server application to do that. So, and sometimes it's such a hefty, powerful web server that I can't get many on a single computer. So in that instance, I might want to set up multiple web servers, or maybe even multiple computers with multiple web servers in each of them. That's doable. So I got a pair of computers here, and we'll say for the sake of simplicity that I have one web server running on each of them. Well, now I got a problem, because I can only port forward to one destination with port 80 or one with 443. Well, that's where my reverse proxy server is going to come in and save the day. So I'm not going to get ahead of myself any further than that. I will do that about on the hour. So no tutorial today. I've showed the contact page, news, tricks, traps, and techniques. Do that, and then we'll do some more questions. I've mentioned this before, but I want to keep this on the front burner, particularly for those of you with international presence here and those of you who are watching internationally on the archive. Total Seminars, totalsem.com. You can find us now has international CompTIA exam vouchers for 50 different countries. I don't have the list in front of me. And if I did, I wouldn't read off 50 names. Go to totalsim.com. See our vendor section. It's just a new banner right now up on the main page that says international vouchers. Start shopping, see if there's a voucher available for your company, because these are discount vouchers, right? You don't have to pay full price for these things. I have a new personal project. I've told a couple of people on the unofficial Total Seminars Discord channel, a couple other people around the world. Now I'm going to share with everybody here. After reviewing everything that I do on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis on my Windows computer, I have come to believe that it is very possible for me to move from Windows as a daily driver to Linux as a daily driver. I know of one single program at the moment where that's not natively possible, but I can even do it with a shim. There's a Windows program that I run that won't run on Linux, simple flat out. But if I run Wine, Windows is not an emulator, or Wine is not an emulator, I should be able to do that. So I'll keep a Windows machine for crisis purposes and things like that. But I picked up a 64 gig computer that's right now turning into my virtual machine server, and I've ordered the parts to make another 64 gig machine, and that will become my daily driver as it comes in. Because most of what I do is either web-based. If I'm using Office 365, I use the web interface. I don't use any of the local apps. Microsoft Teams, that runs fine on Linux. The graphics programs that I use, for the most part, I haven't checked my video editor programs yet. But a great deal of what I do on Windows can be done on Linux. So I'm beginning the process. It's going to take several months. Any other news, tricks, and traps? Oh, yeah. So I got 3 toys in this week. One is my new Raspberry Pi Pico with headers. I have a situation which may have been solved, but I haven't been comfortable testing it in the real world. And that is, I've got a ground fault circuit interrupter that's upstairs, and it was tripping a lot and turning off the circuit that I have my backup refrigerator in. I didn't lose anything, but stuff got warm, stuff got melty. And so I rerouted the plug to an internal plug in the house, and it's been running fine. And then a couple weeks ago, I told you about this. I got shocked a few times changing out that ground fault circuit interrupter, and the change has gone fine. But I haven't had the courage to plug the fridge back into that circuit yet, for fear that I won't be here for if and when there's a failure. So I designed a circuit to monitor power and to communicate with me via email if the power fails on that circuit. It's a pretty neat little circuit. It's just a simple sensor. And of course, the system is battery operated. Power, as long as power is going on, the sensor says, okay, power is going on, it's fine. And we use that same power to keep a battery charged on it. So when power fails, 2 things happen. A, it detects the power failure. B, it switches over to battery, and then the power failure detection triggers an email and or a text message. I can get in either way. And I've designed a whole thing around a Raspberry Pi to do that. I got the idea from a commercial product that I saw that seems to do the same thing. It probably does it in a different way. And then I ran into one of these things this week for a price that was cheaper than I could build it for. Yeah, big deal. I'd get joy out of building these kinds of things. But as you know, I just work like a dog, and there's so little time to do fun projects. So I bought the cheap little product, and it's got a battery in it. This is power, and there's a little adapter there that plugs into power. And I register this with a web service, and what it does is every 10 minutes it calls the web service and says, Dave's power is still on. And at the same time, their web service goes through all their customer list every 10 minutes to say, has anybody not reported in the last 10 minutes? And so if this thing ever stops reporting for more than 10 minutes, their web service will say, oh, Dave hasn't checked in. He must have a power failure. And it will send me texts or emails or both to as many phone numbers and email addresses as I choose to provide it. So now I'm comfortable saying, at least if I have a power failure, I'll know it within 10 or 20 minutes and can get back and get the thing replugged in someplace else. But I am 99.75% certain that I solved the problem by replacing the ground fault circuit interrupter. But that extra 0.5% of uncertainty has said, no, I'm not going to go plug it back into that power system until I get a reliable measurement mechanism. The last thing I want to mention here is I've done some television antenna work. We were cord cutters for, I don't know, over 20 years now. And so I use outdoor television antennas. I get 140 television stations around here if I do want to watch TV. And I've had a tree that's been growing and getting in the way of the antenna. So I needed to get the antenna up a little higher. So I bought a big mast and I've got it mounted, temporarily mounted, held up with ropes and things like that, but not very acceptable. So I designed a mounting system that's going to be very reliable and strong and handle big storms. And the system that I designed, when I looked at it and I started to install it, said, no, that's not acceptable. I need another system. And so I decided to use a U-bolt system, basically a U-bolt shaped like a U. It goes around the mast and around the back of a post and locks in with a couple of bolts. Really tough to find U-bolts the size that I need to accomplish this because of all the equipment and stuff that's involved. So I found a set that seemed to be the right size on eBay, and I ordered them, and they came in a couple of hours ago, and I am utterly shocked to show you what came in. I was not expecting this. There was nothing in the picture to show the scale. And when they said the diameter of these things, I said, that can't be right. Somebody's simply typoed the diameter, and it's just not this big. Well, it's this big. However, I'm going to use them. I got away. It's going to be a fun project. Yeah, those aren't the biggest U-bolts that exist, but they are certainly the biggest ones that I've ever gotten my hands on. Excuse me. I know I sound like the nasal version of Kermit the Frog right now. All right, what do we got here? Time-wise, it's 43. That's a good thing to do here. Let's go back and do questions, and then we'll come back to notes and do a contest, a giveaway contest, because those are fun. Reading messages here. Is my live chat hanging or is nobody chatting? Yes, I'm so interesting that people can't type. Oh, goodness, everything's super scrolled. Xerxes, everybody wishing us all a great weekend and funnel cake. Have a good time at SeaWorld. Did you say SeaWorld San Diego? I don't remember where. That's SeaWorld. Nonetheless, it's always fun. Tell it, I made a new channel, non-tech talk. How does it? I don't know. I understand every one of those words, and then when you string them together in that order, they lose all meaning. Non-tech talk. Zoltan, what hat am I wearing right now? Houston. Yeah, I picked a hat at random. The lighting in here. Let me get rid of this thing. That's just. Oh. There, that solves that problem. Okay, so I don't need to see that. So big shiny forehead and light staring straight in eyes. And so I've been wearing hats during the shows to solve both of those problems. And if I really do it and I get the light out of my eyes, then you can't see me and I can't see you. So we'll just call it shiny forehead. I could use powder, and I could, except my missus is on an airplane right now. She took off and she took all her makeup. I'm not willing to buy my own makeup, as cute as I may be in it. It's obvious I'm uninformed Eastern European. Houston, of course, is the town that I live in, or I'm in a suburb thereof. So Houston, Texas. And it was just something that I picked up. Oh, this is that the town? Yeah, it's just H. It's not University of Houston, where my wife went to school. William Jeski's among us. Talking to tell a bit about Jay-Z. PC's in on Twitch. Okay. And you guys are both on track with Jay-Z 2 cents. Stadia Shark is with us. Very nice. TC is with us. Good to see you back, my friend. Any idea how to stream a video camera feed to a single TV 400 feet away from the camera? I had a similar question to this. All right. There are two answers to that, and they're going to vary. One, you can do a 400-foot HDMI cable. What they do, this is a bit of a trick, but I've got a 300-footer and they have 400s that do exactly this. You got a cable with an HDMI connector on it, right here, let's say, and then a couple of feet in, there's a lump of electronics that are embedded in the cable. And what happens is you've got a little box here. It's got an HDMI connector on both ends and a USB power connection on there. So you plug this end into USB power, and then one end of that box goes into the output of your camera, and the other end goes to the other side of it, goes to one end of your 400-foot HDMI cable. Then you stretch it out. Of course, you deal with burying cables or suspending them or whatever until you get to your destination. That's method number one. Method number two, there are HDMI wireless transmitters. I haven't explored the distance capabilities of them, but I will wager that you can get one that's good for 1,000 feet of unobstructed transmission. And I will also wager that it's not an inexpensive proposition. Throw that question out on the Unofficial Total Seminars Discord channel. If I see it, I will do some research on it further, and there will be plenty of other people with information and those who are interested in pursuing that. I thought you asked a question like this about 6 or 8 weeks ago on Mike's thing. New name, because I've never tried to pronounce Jeff Barber. Jeff Barber. But Jeff Berber at 238 says, trying to get Network Plus ebook and practice test this week. Liberty works. Discount does not apply. It certainly does. So here's what you do. There is a support link on the order page. Kick off this same message to that support link, and they will get you fixed. That code is good through this Sunday night. And I have a theory of what may have happened. The person who does our prizes is also the person who sets up the discount codes, and it's quite possible that they set up the code and didn't get the right value in there. So send off a message, and I'll make a phone call when I'm done with this also, and double check and make sure that happened. But either put a hold on that order or cancel that order, or contact them. If you've made the order, contact them and they will get that fixed, I assure you. TC, we're helping our fair stream an event to a live barn. I don't remember that there was a barn involved here, but they only want people at the fair to be able to see the stream. Yeah, that's not a big deal. It's quite doable. Especially if we're going to do the cable version of it. Okay, TC, we're okay. Zoltan, Hungarian currency is so bad right now. I won't buy anything in USD. Not until I get a new, better paying job. I'm with you on that. Matus Riska, no cables between them. I'm leaning towards running Cat6 Ethernet. Right, that's the other way. Yeah, use the converter. I've got one of those too, and those are wonderful. They make versions that'll run 500 plus feet over Cat5, so you may not need Cat6. I actually have 2 Ethernet versions. One's a 300 footer that runs on Cat5, and one's an 800 footer that runs on Cat6. I didn't buy them for the specs. I bought them for the price. Hey, I could use this someday. But I'll bet if I went out and hunted, I know that I've seen Cat5e, of course, versions that will do much longer runs than 300 feet, than 100 meters. Streaming over a cell phone. Possible. There is no voucher program going on right now. I was Mike was pessimistic when talking about vouchers the other day. I am not, especially because of the phone call that I got last night, and I got him involved. I think it's going to be less challenging than he does. But the short answer is right now, we don't have a free voucher program. We do have discount vouchers, US, Canada, Puerto Rico, and 50 other nations where they're supported. Just go to totalsum.com. Jay's okay with an S, actually. All right. How many meters is 400 feet? So 330 feet is 100 meters. So call it 160, something like that. No, that's not right. But 130, yeah, give or take 130 meters, something like that. 130 meters, that's kind of like the width of the Netherlands, right? Alucard, my favorite vampire. Congratulations. It's been a while. I'm glad to see you back. I'm happy to say that I got a job doing tech support. Couldn't be happier. Thank you and Total Sum crew. Congratulations. That's why we're here. Getting jobs. Way to go. 121 meters. I would qualify my estimate as pretty good then. Too far for cat. Yeah, well, string a wire to the cat and it'll take off. Fiber. Reading messages here. Everybody's talking about this wiring thing. It's very cool. Still waiting on my Sec Plus voucher I won in April. Good luck. Sorry, it'd be out of my hands. Nobody I can check with now. They're all disbanded. So someday you may get it. You may never get it. And I'm sorry if that's what happens. All right, that takes care of that. Let us entertain you. Oh, good. 52 minutes past the hour. It's time for a giveaway contest. So if you're studying for any of the CompTIA exams or other exams, AWS exams and CYSA and we've got practice tests available for you, and we're going to give one away. It will be any practice test that we have to offer of your choice, 90-day free access to it. And all you have to do is make a guess at a number. I'll give you a range of numbers, and the closest person to the random number that our computer system selected, randomnumbergenerator.com, they should send me money for advertising them every week, right? Will win total access to these things. You are allowed 3 guesses, each on a separate entry. Don't give me 1, 2, 3 on one entry. One entry with a 1, another entry with a 2, another entry with a 3. And I will go through all of the list and do my best to figure out who has the closest number that does not go over the number selected for the range by this random number generator site that I use online. All right, we'll keep it simple. You get 3 guesses, different entries, closest to my number without going over in any of those 3 guesses. Don't use the same one. Okay, don't say 100, 100, 100. Improve your odds. Use different numbers. All right, here's the range. From 500 through 1,000 inclusive. Random number generator picked a number in that range. You must now pick a number in that range closest to without going over. If you won before, you may win again. I don't see a ton of people here. We got a fair amount. We've got 76 on so far, but that's all right. I feel like letting anybody win today, and so I shall. All right, give me a guess. Random number between 500 and 1,000 inclusive. closest to only 3 guesses. Okay, you see, if I see you do a fourth, that really bugs me when people try and take advantage of an already really nice gift. It's just not fair, and so we won't do that. All right, looking through answer posts here. Looking at numbers. Wow. I got a number that's within 6. Jeff Barber, you were not listening. Do not do 3 guesses on the same post. 3 different guesses. So that number, or that submission is ignored. All right. So this happened last week. I had a number in mind. I saw somebody. I said, man, there's nobody who's ever going to get closer than this. And I started doing winter paperwork and all that stuff. And lo and behold, somebody got a closer one after that. So anything can happen here. But right now, I got somebody who's only 6 away. So I'm still going to put that in, and on the odds-on gamble that nobody's going to get closer. But let's see. Where did I go? Okay, that one. Oh man, there's somebody who's 1 away, but on the wrong side of it. Wow. Wow. See, if you're paying close attention, you're starting to look through here and say, wait a minute, there's 2 numbers that are a certain distance apart from one another. I've given it all away here. 30 more seconds for more guesses, and then we will call a winner, announce the number, and all that stuff. I'm looking for what you're saying. Zoltan, I'm not seeing what you're saying. Okay, so there's yours. Oh yeah, people copy each other's numbers all the time. And here's why. Just because you see your number appear first doesn't mean I'll see it appear first. So somebody may be trying to compete with you, and I may see them before I see you. But of the numbers that you proposed, I did see yours first, so it's okay. Don't make me do my spiel about tough bananas. If you win, you win, and if you don't, you don't. There's always another chance, because I'm going to do that spiel. All right, no more guesses. The random number that was selected by randomnumbergenerator.com when I put in the range of 500 through 1,000. I was very surprised at the number, but I always accept what it puts to be truly fair. Random number was 530, 530. So I show as today's winner, Tullowit, with 524. TD Washington, man, way to go. You were 531, 1 away. Sorry about that. So Tullowit, I have posted up on the chat feed how to claim your winnings. I'll also throw that up on here just for hoots and share it with everybody in case you win next time. If you didn't win today, don't be upset. Mike does this every Monday. Mike does this every Wednesday. Different kind of question, and I do it every Friday. So send me an email, Tullowit, to daver@totalsim.com. In the body of the email, 4 fields, your YouTube name, your real name, your email address, and which practice test by exam number. That's the one everybody blows. I get product numbers from Total Tester Online and all kinds of other weird and wacky things. I can only find these by, you know, a CompTIA exam number, SY0601, or whatever the case may be. All right, congratulations, Tullowit. You are a winner. It's not a first-time win, but you haven't overdone it. So kudos to you go. You know what? So there were 2 reported deaths yesterday. Usually I'm kind of on top of that and, you know, do an announcement if it's got some kind of emotional connection to me. I like James Caan, I miss him. But it always surprises me if I don't do it that somebody else doesn't. So we marked yesterday the passage of the great actor James Caan. Man, he did some good stuff. I was here listening to a compendium this morning of things that I'd forgotten that he was in that I really love. Rollerball. James Caan in Rollerball. Holy Hannah. Love that movie. Love that guy. And then found dead in snorkeling gear at 60 years old off the coast of Japan, the creator of Yu-Gi-Oh! So he appears to have drowned while snorkeling. I know some of you are or were Yu-Gi-Oh! Card collectors, and you do the whole thing, the manga, the movies, the shows. Excuse me. I talk, it makes things worse. That's how it goes. There we go. There was lots of discussion yesterday in all kinds of corners about my upcoming Linux course, whatever it's going to be. And now we're back into meetings again. So I've got a meeting on it on Tuesday with powerful people. Wow, that's sad. Yes, it is sad. Sorry. That's how it goes. I'll get better. I'm better now than I was 2 weeks ago. I'm better now than I was a week ago. Well, that takes us about to the top of the hour. So now is a good time to start thinking about our discussion of the day. It's not a project. Oh, let me do one more thing here. I'm going to repost the 3 links that everybody always wants and needs. There's the special with the Liberty thing. Hold on till tomorrow until we make sure that we've got all that cleared up, or try it today. Make sure you get the discount. But I'll be on the phone with the backup person who's taking care of that. It may also be, oh, you know what? I bet I know what happened. You got to put both things exactly as specified. The ebook for A+, let's say, and Total Tester Online for A+. When you have both of those things in the cart, they both have to be for A+, has to be the ebook, has to be Total Tester. Then when you put Liberty in, then you will get the 50% off. It doesn't work on other products. It doesn't work on other combinations. I mean, not just you can do it for Net Plus or AWS, but those 2 items. So I am now making a guess that that's what happened in your circumstance. You had a mismatch. I could be wrong, because the backup person is so good. They never make mistakes. All right, what else here? Let's repost the Discord invitation link. There we go. And it won't be up for a couple hours, but it'll be up for the whole of the weekend. My archive server with today's notes and pictures and everything will be downloadable. There was nothing for last week because it was just a presentation that I couldn't do. Watch last week's show with Chloe Bowman, and that's going to be the way to learn this thing, like get yourself started. All right, over notes then. So what I want to do for the next 20 minutes or so, maybe less, is talk about reverse proxy servers. And first of all, my notes here. So the most popular reverse proxy server product out there is Nginx. Now, Nginx is a web server at its core, but it's so powerful and it's so flexible. It can do so much more that that's what we're going to use. It's what everybody uses if they're proxying in-house web servers. There's obviously some weird exception out there. So Security Plus, SY0601. I guess we don't have to say that right now because 501's gone. Objective 3.3 says, given a scenario, implement secure network designs, and then in the sub bullets and domains underneath there, there's a listing for network appliances, sub proxy servers, and sub forward and different line reverse. So we have to understand what a forward proxy server is and what a reverse proxy server is to meet that objective and be able to successfully answer questions on that topic for SY0601. So just trying to select words very carefully here. If I walked in the door and had a complete group of people who had no technical computer network, A+, Sec+, whatever background, I would say proxy server. And there's a box out there called a proxy server, and I would define one. However, there's more than one kind of proxy server. There is a forward proxy server, and there are different kinds of reverse proxy servers. They do the same thing, but how we use them and where we place them makes them a little bit different. So I want to do this from a notes. I think I'm probably just going to do this extemporaneously off of my slideshow. Then I'll come back and see if I missed anything. Yeah, that's the way I'm going to do it. All right, so let's bring up a shared slideshow. That's a tongue twister. You got to be careful with that. Share screen. I'm not thrilled with the way I've got to do this presentation to you, but again, I made all these slides this morning. I didn't have a chance to make them gorgeous or pretty or put them in some nice display utility. So what we have here is a simple, basic business network, home network with no proxies or anything like that. This is just how your network is probably set up at your house. Maybe not this many hosts, but we got this Soho router. It's got a wide area network interface, goes to the cloud, to the internet through your internet service provider, but it's WAN, it's got a public IP address. On the other side of your Soho router, we have the LAN. It's a NAT router, of course. And so we've got IP addresses in here that are private, 192.168 dot something, or 17.16 dot something, or 10 dot something, you get the idea. It connects to a switch or to a wireless access point, and then all of the devices in your facility, your business, your home, they connect to the network either via hardwire to the switch or wirelessly if this is a wireless access point. So here's all my hosts. And all of these have private addresses. Maybe they're statically assigned, maybe they're assigned by DHCP, doesn't matter. This is just a basic network for us to have a place to start our discussion. Now, as a facility manager, as a network manager, as the IT manager, it's part and parcel of my job to keep my network and my users' computers safe. I also have to keep corporate information safe. And so I'm going to create a box, set up a box, configure a box that could broadly be considered a firewall, but it's got some important differences. And it's called a forward proxy. The job of a forward proxy is to take any information that comes from a device on your local network and intercept it and review it before it goes out on the network. So it filters outbound content, and that filtering could be port numbers. No, nobody's allowed to communicate out port 774. It could be word content. So maybe we got keywords based on company confidential information. Maybe we've got a product code name Possum. So anytime somebody sends out something that's got the word possum in them, the forward proxy server would say, nope, that's not going out. And it would just evaporate it. It works in reverse. Nothing comes in, not without port forwarding or anything like that, nothing really creative, but contact to the LAN side of a Soho router is not permitted through a NAT or Soho router. Then that's initiated contact from the outside. However, if we send out a request from the inside to the outside, it has to get responded to. So again, the job of the forward proxy will be to intercept anything that's a reply to a client's request, check it for unapproved content, ports, addresses, whatever the case may be. And if there is anything that's not approved, again, it just gets evaporated. Nothing happens to it. It doesn't get forwarded. It doesn't get responded to. It's just, okay, I'm not doing anything with that. And if it's approved, then it will be directed to the original client here. Proxies, unlike firewalls, also have the ability to cache content. So maybe somebody has done a Google search on possums in the past. It went into the switch, it went into the proxy server. The proxy server said, that's okay, this possum is different. He sends it out, goes to the Soho router, comes back in from this into the Soho router land, back to the forward proxy. And the forward proxy says, you know what, that's good information. I'm going to cache that up in case anybody makes that same request or similar request in the future. Then sends the results back to the originating client. Next time somebody else does a Google search on possum, it only needs to go this far. He says, oh, I got that search cached up. Here you go. So it can speed things up mightily. Now, how do we make this happen? We're not going to talk about forward proxies. We've actually done a forward proxy in a Raspberry Pi episode a while back, but we got to do two things. First of all, we've got to go to the Soho router and set up a rule that says it will only accept outbound traffic from this box. In my instance, 192.168.1.2. So anybody who tries to bypass the proxy, they'll have a different IP address, and the Soho router will reject it. So nope, can't send that out. Thanks for trying. And so the second thing you have to do is go to each computer and set up a proxy server configuration. Now that can be done with DHCP. It can be done manually, but that's how proxy servers work in organizations. That's how forward proxy servers work. Now, when we say proxy to most people these days, this is the one that they have in mind. This is your NordVPN or your Nord proxy, your Proton proxy, your Proton VPN. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a reverse proxy server out here on the internet, connected to the cloud somewhere. Now, here's the issue. Here's why I want or need that. And there's maybe two reasons, maybe more. I got a host here in my LAN, and it wants to access this web server in the United Kingdom. However, this web server says, I have a programming limitation. I have a filter, a firewall that won't allow IP addresses that are assigned to wherever this client is. Let's make it United States. And so this guy gets there, and all he gets is a message back that says, you're not allowed to access our content because you're not from an approved country or region or something like that. So somebody goes out and builds a reverse proxy server that has an IP address that's approved by these folks. And so now we're going to configure our client to send all outbound traffic requests to this box, to the IP address or the name of this box. And what will happen is he's going to say, okay, I got your request. I'll make a note of what your IP address was and what your port was, and I will initiate contact with that web server in the UK. He'll say, you've got a valid IP address to talk with us. That's cool. I will respond and send you back the results. Excuse me. And then he will rebuild the packet with the appropriate headers that's got your IP address and your port number on it and send it back to you. So he's a go-between. So he does two things. Number one, he provides an alternate IP address than your actual native one. So he gives access, makes access available to IP address fenced sites. And number two, let's say that this thing was tracking IP addresses. Well, it will never know your IP address. Your IP address will exist here in memory, maybe in a log if there's still a few proxy servers that do that. But as far as this web server is concerned, he's just talking back and forth with this reverse proxy server. He doesn't even know that it's a reverse proxy server. Some reverse proxy servers advertise one of their benefits that they don't log IP addresses when they come in. They just keep them in memory. So they get flushed when communication is done. They get flushed every time the power is cycled. So you're not trackable through these kinds of reverse proxy servers. They also call them VPNs, And that's because they tend to have a built-in virtual private network connection. So nobody between here and here can intercept and gather your data using a man-in-the-middle attack or something like that. So that's a very common kind of reverse proxy that's used commercially to beat IP fencing and to hide IP addresses from destinations. Not what we're doing today. We're not doing a forward proxy, and we're not doing this kind of reverse proxy. We're going to do a reverse proxy that starts out with a little cardboard box demonstration that I introduced here. So we start out with a location. Maybe it's your house, maybe it's a business, whatever. It's got a web server on it. We're going to call it 192.168.1.100, and it's listening on port 80. It's connected via a switch or wirelessly to a Soho router. It's a NAT router. And in order to access this web server from the outside world, we have to set up port forwarding. So we're going to say anything that comes into this guy's IP address, some public WAN address, excuse me, or through a DDNS name, on port 80, we're going to take that and we're going to forward it inside our network to this host, and by coincidence, and it is by coincidence, on port 80. So anybody who sends a request to this IP address, port 80, that request will be forwarded onto the local network to this host and to that host's port 80. That's what I got set up right now, sitting in front of me, just like that. That's how you get to pirsquare.zapto.org. And that works great until you add another web server. Maybe the web server's in the same box, uses a different IP address. Maybe it's a different box, got a different IP address. So now I've got two web servers in this site, one at .100 listening on 80, and the other one at .101 listening on 80. Well, here's the problem. I can't port forward two port 80s to different sites. If a request comes into this WAN IP address, port 80, it can get forwarded to .100 port 80 or .101 80, but not both. And it's not smart enough to know which one it should if there's some intelligence there. Come here, you. So here's one possible fix. I could set this up to listen for port 80 calls. And if they ever come in, he's going to send them to .100:80. And oh, that's no good yet. I'm also going to set up to listen for IP address 8080 calls. You got a client out there, and you could go to pirsquare.zapto.org:8080. My router could look at that and say, okay, that's a call to 8080. I know if I ever see a request to port 8080, I'll send that off to host 101 port 80. So anytime a port 80 request comes in here, it goes to .100:80. And anytime a request for 8080 comes in here, it would go to 101:80. That's okay, but yuck. I have to tell everybody who I want to access my web server, this one, that they have to start by contacting me and adding :8080 into their browser bar so they can get to this server. Let's make it worse. What if we had 10 web servers or 100 or 1,024? Well, I would have to have a table here with 10 different ports being forwarded to all those hosts, or with 100 different ports, or with 1,000 different ports. That's not practical. And how do I tell all of my people out there, hey, if you want to get to the Possum Lodge, tell me somebody gets that, to the Possum Lodge web server, hit me up on port 8089. And if anybody who wants to get to the Herald web server, those two are connected. Work it out. Then I might have to set up a different port for, I don't know, 8091, whatever. You get the idea. So whatever. what a royal pain. So here is a configuration just like that. I got 4 web servers sitting in my location, .100, .101, 102, and 103. They're all listening on port 80. I need a better solution than to have 4 different listening ports on here and each one forwarding to each of those individual web servers. Enter the other kind of reverse proxy server. In our case, it's going to be Nginx. So I build this proxy server. I give it an IP address that's unique on the network, .99, and look at that. I'm going to have him listen to port 80. I'm actually about done here. The only other thing I got to do is a configuration file that I'll get into in a little bit and more next week. So here's what happens now. This is so cool. Joe client out there types in to his browser www.davespossum.com, and that's set up on some dynamic DDNS server, and that dynamic DDNS server says, okay, davespossum.com is accessible through this IP address on port 80. So here it comes, the request for davespossum.com, and it's going to get forwarded. Oh man, I typoed here. It should get forwarded to port 99. Did I do that on the next page and fix that? Yeah, can't have it on 100 here because that might not be right. So I changed the port forward to 99. So any and all requests that come in on port 80 will get sent to the proxy server. Now the proxy server will look in the request and say, what's the name of the web server that you're trying to get to? Dave's Possum. And maybe I've got 4 other different names, the 3 other different name servers here. Dave's Gopher, Dave's Tiger, Dave's Bear. I don't know, making these up as I go. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a configuration file in here that says Dave's Possum can be found at .100:80. Dave's Gopher can be found at .101:80. Dave's Tiger at 102. Dave's Bear at 103. So he detects which server it's bound for, is targeted based on information that comes in on the initial contact request, and he handles the forwarding, or it's actually reversed at this point, and says, okay, I'll send that over to the right thing. The results will also come back out. I can configure this in one of 2 ways. I can make this send results out natively through the Soho router, or I can make it go through the proxy server. So now we get really powerful. So there's a config file here in this reverse proxy server for each served web server. And basically what's in there is the name or the IP address of these servers and the IP address and the host. Each config file has the name and or IP address of the web servers being serviced. The reverse proxy server looks at the server name and the client request, passes the request to the appropriate web server in the network. So that makes it easy to do 1,000 in here, 10,000, whatever. These could all be in the same computer, same IP address, just listening on different ports. That'd be okay in this instance, because as far as the user knows, all they ever have to care about is know the name of the server they're trying to connect to, and they don't have to know that. DNS will take care of it, and use port 80, which is the normal natural default port that we do anytime. Hey, it's a proxy server. We said that forward proxy servers can cache content. This can do the same thing. It can cache up content from these servers so that when requests come in for them, if the content is static, or even if it's dynamic, if it hasn't changed, if the requests are the same, he can send the answers out himself. This is how we do load balancing. These servers could all be the same with same contents in there. The reverse proxy server could say, okay, well, they're all the same. I'll use some algorithm to pick who gets to handle the next request. That algorithm might be, it's your turn. Next one is on you. Next one's on you. Next one's on you. Or it might be something more sophisticated. It's in contact with these guys all the time saying, how busy are you? How busy are you? And when a request comes in, it selects and forwards to the least busy server. Now in Nginx, I'm going to give you information you don't need right now, but I want to expose you to it before next week. We create a configuration file, any name you want. It's really powerful and really flexible. And we put it in this folder, whack Etsy, whack Nginx, whack sites dash available, because there is built into the Nginx process a thing that says, hey, when you boot up and you start configuring yourself, go look in that folder, and every configuration file you see in there, read its contents and create a configuration in memory that we can use to deal with that. So we can add and subtract entries all the time, and each one is done with a different file. Why that's valuable is, let's say that I've got 4 servers here. I'm not going to remember their IP addresses. I'll put them in configuration file, but I could call one of my files davespossum.conf, or maybe I could get really complete. Maybe this thing has a DDNS name of www.davespossum.com. Fine, I can make a file by that same name. Maybe add another .conf after it. So it's really easy just by looking at well-named configuration files, which ones you want to edit, change, whatever. So next week, I'll show you the actual contents of those files. It's very, very simple. But I want to have a few web servers up and running so we can experiment with it. And if everything goes well, if I get the time to configure everything I want, I will have everything up and running so that there will be 4 different web servers in here that you can access during the show just by calling them by their appropriate name in your browser. That's going to be cool. All right, that's the end of the slides. That's the end of the presentation. So we're talking about the kind of reverse proxy that lives inside a facility that hosts multiple servers. And again, these don't have to be web servers. This could be something listening on port, something else, a VPN port, an SSH port, an FTP port. The reverse proxy isn't limited to port 80. He says, you give me something that's forwarded to a port that I've been configured to listen to, I will, and I will send it to the appropriate destination server. So powerful, flexible, functional. That's what you need to know as far as questions that you're going to encounter on SY0601 about forward proxies and reverse. I've covered everything you need to know. We got more details in the books. We have less details in the videos. So this is the full video presentation of everything that you need to care about. How we do on time here? 27, great, plenty of time. Took pretty much exactly how much I anticipated. So what we got now is more Q&A until we wind up, and then we're done for the day, and it'll be Friday and the weekend, huh? Cool things to talk about too for the upcoming week. All right, let me see if I missed anything in my notes here that I feel is important to add. Nginx as core is a web server. It's configurable. It's like any other web server, like Apache or LightPD or whatever. And we did that. It's not limited to web servers, but our project will be focused on web servers. We did it in 2 parts with the slides. Okay, I covered everything here that I want to do for today. Sorry, just setting up my notes where they need to be for the next part that I'm going to do in here. All right, that takes care of that. Let's go see if anybody was. If you got more questions or more comments, now's the time, because I'm done with content for the show. A couple announcements of upcomings and things like that, but otherwise I am, except for your questions, ready to wind things down. All right, so we're at the point where everybody was congratulating on winners. So I'm looking at time mark 2:58. Yay, yay for Tulowitz, says Scotty Powder. Show notes for the win. I'm scared. All right. You were so close, TD. You were so close. Andre, did Tulowitz win? How did that happen? How many wins do you have under your belt, Andre? Okay, yeah. So yeah, we left off at 3 o'clock when we talked about. I can't remember the gentleman's name. I'm terrible at remembering most Japanese names. Exceptions. Toshiro Mifune, love him. Uh, Ken Watanabe. Wow, what an actor. A couple others. Those are two of my favorites. Andre, updating my BIOS. Yeah, so you had quite the saga going on there. Excuse me. What are we going here? Updating my BIOS on my laptop. Now I'm nervous since I managed to mangle Windows installation on my desktop yesterday, adding RAM. I'm not sure what happened to your system there. I read it. I had theories, but I cannot understand for the life of me how a RAM change could have did what you experienced. So I don't know where that's coming from. Other theories, knocking cables loose to your storage devices while power was engaged is my strongest theory. But I don't know. Kylie, good luck, Andre. Yep. It's installing now and beyond the point of no return. So it either happens or it doesn't, right? Nerve-wracking minutes. I should be able to upgrade to Win 11. Is that not really an upgrade? 12-port switch. I'm whipping out boxes this morning using Microsoft Paint. Yay, laptop booted, update BIOS successful. Congratulations. There we go. Kylie Powder, Red Green, huge favorite Canada many years ago. It was in the 90s. They put it on rerun on one of my local retro stations here about 2 weeks ago. And I think I ran across it when I was in the living room surfing television on the holiday the other day. I was waiting for grilling to happen. I said, you know what, I'm just going to chill and watch the TV. I was like, holy Hannah, Red Green's on. And so I started looking up. The guy who plays Red Green, Steve Smith, was doing a commercial for it, an advertisement. He looks his age, late 70s now, I think 78 or something like that. And then I looked up Pat McKenna, who plays Harold. Pat is still active. Of course, he was a little younger than Steve Smith. But if you go look up Pat McKenna on IMDb, you will be surprised at how many things that you have probably seen him in and said, oh my gosh, I never realized it. He does a tremendous amount of voice work, right? You got to find him in SpongeBob and some of the anime and lots and lots and lots of other things. Well, thanks, Dallas. Appreciate that. I hope that does help you on the test. The problem is it's such a small component of the test. You'll never get more than one question and you'll probably get none. So, we just devoted 27 minutes to potentially one question or zero on the test. But still, if it makes you a better tech, if it gives you a better understanding of the underlying technology of the internet, then I'm very happy. So filling in a new notch for filing a new notch. I was afraid that's what it said. You can make any RAM module fit into any slot once, and it takes a hammer. Andre, I've been installing and removing a lot of software the last 2 years. I think leftovers from these installs might have messed up. Sure, that's not invalid. All right, well, let me do my final notes here. And then if you got any other final questions, now's the time. What time is it? It is 33. It's going to be a really short show today. Very unlike Dave, but that's how it goes. Next week, we're going to do a part 2. It's really simple, and I'll get you started. If you want to install Nginx right now as a regular old-fashioned web server, all you got to do is 2 lines. Sudo apt update. And you can do this in Ubuntu, Kylie Powder, anybody else who's playing Ubuntu. You can do it in Raspberry Pi OS, whatever. I would not, it's doable, but it's a little more complicated, and I'm not going to get into this level of complexity. Don't install it for now on the same server that's running a web server that you're going to reverse proxy to. Do them on different computers. if at all possible. Dave, I don't have 2 Raspberry Pis. You don't have to. Take your Windows machine and enable IIS. Just go into features and functions, whatever that the name of that menu is called, and turn on IIS. And 2 minutes later, you will have a web server running on that computer. And now you can take your Raspberry Pi, take a virtual machine that you've got some flavor of Linux in. And again, 2 steps. Step number 1, sudo apt update your system and let you find Nginx, and then sudo apt install Nginx, Nginx. Now you've got a web server running on there called Nginx. It's a basic web server, doesn't have anything on it. But then what we'll do next week is, and that takes less than 2 minutes for most part. Then next week, what we'll do is we'll get into the location and the contents of the configuration files to do the reverse proxying. They're very simple, the little 7-line files. You can copy and paste most of it. There's only a little bit of customization, and that's names and IP addresses of any web servers that you have in-house. It's very simple, very easy to configure. All right, upcoming episodes then. So I had a list of 4 last week. It should have gone down to 3, but since I've turned this into a 2-parter, next week, Nginx Part 2 as a reverse proxy server. I was out last night looking at the moon. I'm not going to be able to do astrophotography for the next 2 weeks. The moon is going to get fuller and fuller and fuller over the next 2 weeks. So astrophotography using a 64 megapixel Arducam on a Raspberry Pi. So probably about 3 weeks for that one. Endeavor OS, all one word with the British spelling, ENDEAVOUR-OS on Raspberry Pi. It's an outlier operating system that's not officially supported by Raspberry Pi Group, but it's got a lot of fans, it's got a lot of hobbyists, and they have recently let go a new release that's stable and easy to install. So we're going to take a look at that. We'll install it and explore a little bit. And then the current version of Raspberry Pi OS does not have the problem that I'm going to show you how to solve. However, Ubuntu does, Kali does, other distros do. All of the Red Hat upstream and downstream distros, Red Hat, Rocky, Alma Linux, CentOS. There's no new CentOS, but Will's still out there running CentOS version 2.1, I think. All of them have this problem. And that problem is when you set up a local domain entry in it, it won't use it. It won't advertise it. It won't say I'm on, my name is Ubuntu1.local or any other dot whatever that's a valid local name. And so if you try to access it externally, let's say I want to SSH to it from this computer to the computer sitting right beside me. I say SSH Ubuntu1.local. It'll say server not found. So I'm going to show you the piece of software that will make it work. It is really simple. There's no configuration. It's just an install. I could tell it to you right now in 5 seconds, but then I would lose 25 minutes of show time that I'm going to need to do that one. So I'm going to show you how to make it recognize, use, and provide local domains for those servers and Linux hosts that don't already do that. Mike's show, upcomings. So Mike's going to do a show this Monday. He's leaving tomorrow morning, crack of dawn, for Denver or somewhere in Colorado. I don't know if it's Springs or if it's Boulder, but whatever, somewhere in Colorado. His daughter called him and said, hey, we would like you to be here not only for the arrival of your granddaughter, but you're another strong arm in the crowd who can help take care of the existing grandkids and all that stuff while mom's at the hospital doing her thing and everybody else is doing their thing. So grandpa's there to help out and to meet his new granddaughter. That adds marvelous complexities to what we are and we're going to do next week. We are, one way or the other, going to have Elaine Batzer on the show Monday the 11th. where she's going to be. She's here in Houston. She's traveling today. She arrives. This is probably has arrived already. Going to kill the weekend with friends and relatives. And then the plan was to have her and Mike in studio together down at the offices. Well, that's not going to work because Mike's out. So we're looking at two alternatives that probably won't get worked out until Sunday night or Monday morning, the way things go sometimes. And that will either be, I'll set up a Zoom connection for Mike and Elaine to join together on Zoom, and I'll be hiding in the background. Or Elaine and I will do a Zoom connection if Mike's not available because he's taking care of new family. Or maybe even, beg your pardon, Elaine and I go down to the studio and we do it together. Something's going to happen. We're going to have Elaine. If you are job hunting, if you are in preparation for jobs, especially with trifecta certifications, and maybe that's all you got, or maybe you got a little more, you have some unusual background, you come from a wildlife capture expertise background, you're out there in the swamps of Florida picking up boa constrictors, whatever. She runs a well, let's call it a high school education program where she gets these folks through that same level. They get them through the trifecta, they get them through CCNA, and then she's very in tune with who's hiring, what kind of skill sets they want, interview techniques, things like that. So if you are in the job hunting mode and you're doing it based on the fact that you're getting or you hold certifications, check out the show, ask her questions. She's really good. She's fun to talk to. She's smart. She gives very clear and strong answers. Catch Elaine Batzer, no L, on July 11th. All right, see if anything else is coming up here. Who's going to be on Discord after the show? I got a little time. I'll pop in for a few minutes. Tolo, it's going to type. No vid. Multitasking. Okay. Dave can't do the astro photo when the full moon comes. Yeah, that's right. I am a lycanthrope. You know, look at this. But I'm a wise old one. Way to go, Kylie. Oh man. All right. Well, let's wind her up then. Been fun as ever and always. Can't wait until next week to do this. Should I throw up? Yeah, you know what? Just one more time. No, I'm not going to throw up, but just for hoots, one more time, I'll throw the fun links up for everybody. Let's start with that one. Pi Square server, which will be up in the next hour or two. You know what? I'm lying. It's going to be up in the morning. I'm busy. The Discord server invitation and the AMA specials. Remember, exactly the two products that we specify, ebook and total tester for the same course of study, A+, Net+, Sec+, whatever. And I will double check with the appropriate person, make sure that that code is working and programmed the way it's supposed to be. All right, that take care of that. That takes care of that. All right, well, as ever and always, still my eternal gratitude to Mike Myers. He's not part of Total Seminars, you know, anymore. He is. He's got offices there. He's got. I still work with him directly and get reports. So yeah, but also to Dudley, our CEO, and everybody else at Total who so generously provide time and resources for us to get together and do this stuff. As always, my most heartfelt thanks goes to you and everyone who comes here to participate. Ooh, I almost hit the wrong thing there, as I do almost regularly. There's no show without you. So this is Dave Rush. I'm the senior instructor at Total Seminars, resident Pi specialist. As ever, I wish you a great weekend. Take care of each other. Take serious steps to stay healthy. Call or visit your parents if it's at all possible. And never forget, technology is great, but the greatest resource we have are you and I. And with that, good night. I'll see you on Discord for a little bit of time and at the AMAs next week. Until then, I am out of here.